Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Come on in the room. I want to say good morning. Welcome to Real Talk Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining. I am going to give about another minute or two just for those to come in and to like and share. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule this morning to talk about boundaries. It is going to be a fire live today because listen, I got skull drugged on this one, and I said, I know I am not alone. So come on in again. Good morning to everyone that's coming in. Good morning, Haley Boo. I love you so much, sis. Thank you for joining. But yeah, we're going to talk about setting boundaries today. And this is going to be a straight shooter, no chaser. It's probably not going to be the most pleasant one I've done, but I know that it's needed and it is necessary. So I'm truly excited to share it this morning. It has been a minute since I've been on. Been about 3 weeks. Life's been happening, things been going on, but God is still good. And even with that, I'm learning that it is okay that things don't always work out the way that we think they should, but it works out the way God desires it to. So I'm excited. And it's so amazing that today is August the 1st, and we know number 8 talks about new beginnings. And I think today is a perfect time to talk about boundaries going into the 8th month, where it does symbolize new beginnings. And we're going to talk about that because we know that it's time for us to make a fresh start. And it's another opportunity for us to make amends, right wrongs, and fulfill God's plan and purpose for our lives. And how can we do that if we're not setting the proper boundaries and making sure that we're taking care of ourselves and setting those healthy boundaries? So we're going to talk about it again this morning. Good morning, sis. Good morning, Tara. Good morning, Blanche. I love you so much, sis. I look forward to seeing you in September. All right, so we're going to jump right in. But yeah, it's a good one today. It's going to be tight, but it's right. So we're going to talk about setting boundaries and keeping them. How many like yourself, like myself, pardon me, have said that you're going to do this, you're going to do that, but you never really end up going doing those things. You never really end up setting those boundaries that you know need to be set. This has been an issue for me all of my life. Just being honest, this is what real talk is about, real, raw, and relevant. It has been an issue, and there is a root to that issue. So even as I talk about it, even as we go deep, I want to pause and pray because this is very dear to me. I think it's something that needs to be addressed. It's a serious matter, and it's causing a lot of us to lose in a lot of situations. It's causing a lot of setbacks in many ways because we have not set boundaries. So I want to just pause and pray. I want to be obedient to the Spirit. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this day. Thank you, Father, for allowing us to come together to learn and to be better and to know and understand what it means to set boundaries. Father, I ask you, God, to bless all those that are on the line, those that may come pop in to listen, those that may come in and look at it later, whether it's tomorrow or next year. Father, I ask you, God, to speak as only you can. I ask you, Father, to bind every distraction, Father, open our hearts and minds to receive and to know the importance of setting healthy boundaries. Father, I bless you and I thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, let's get into it. All right. So as I said, boundaries. Nobody wants to set boundaries. We don't like them because boundaries make us uncomfortable. When we set boundaries, we find ourselves feeling guilty. Anybody like yourself feel guilty? Like me, feel guilty when you set boundaries? I have wrote down the definition of boundaries, and I have written notes everywhere. I promise y'all, my notes. I every time God would give me something, I would just write it down. But I want to read the definition of boundaries. You just bear with me this morning. But yes, we don't want to set boundaries. We feel like we have our own reasons for not setting them. I'm going to be honest. Dorothea didn't set them because I wanted to have that acceptance. I did not want to feel abandoned. We're going to get into that later. And a boundary is a line that marks the limits of an area. It's a dividing line. So it's time for us to draw the line. It's time for us to know and understand that some things that we have accepted or allowed in our lives, we don't have to put up with that. Even the post that I shared to share what I was going to be talking about this morning, instead of asking, wondering why they keep doing it, the question is, why do we keep allowing it? And there's a root to this thing. And I want us to think about and it's all personal. Everybody have their own reason, but I know that there is a deep root to all of it. And God showed me that. And I didn't even realize that I had an issue that was so bad until God sent someone into my life to really help me recognize this. If you have someone in your life that pushes you to be better, they're showing you areas, you should celebrate that and appreciate that. When you know it's helping you and they don't have no ill intent, they're really trying to make you better. And I realized that I said, Dorothea, you really have not set those proper boundaries that you need to set. So I want to talk about it. And like I said, we just gonna get right into it. I want to ask a couple of questions before we go deep into what I'm going to share today. The first question would be is do you find yourself being taken advantage of people by people easily? Is it hard for you to make decisions based on what you want because you always think about what everyone else wants? Do you take the responsibility of how others feel in your own hands? Do you hate letting people down? Do you find yourself saying yes to everything? Do you find yourself feeling burnt out and tired? If you answer yes to any of these questions, I want to encourage you to start setting boundaries and start it today. And one thing about boundaries, boundaries affect every part of our lives, literally. And it will basically catapult you to that place or to hold you back. So setting those boundaries is very important. And as I said earlier, we may feel guilty or don't feel like we have a right to set boundaries when we do. But I'm here to tell you that you do have a right to set them, and they are healthy and they are good for you, for your overall being, and even for those that you're setting those boundaries with. And as I was thinking about setting boundaries and just reflecting on what I was going to share, I thought a lot of times when we set boundaries, it's going to ruffle some feathers. It's going to make those that really benefit from us not setting boundaries. It's going to kind of tick them off. It's going to make them feel some type of way. But that's an indication. That's the main reason you need to set them. A lot of times, let's just be real. We have these 1, 2 people in our lives that we know we need to set boundaries with, and we don't do it. And those are the main reasons that I'm talking about this today, because we feel like, well, I don't want to hurt so and so feelings. I don't want to feel like I'm being mean. That was me. I don't like to hurt people. I don't, I really try to do the right thing, but it was hurting me at the end of the day. And there's so many negative effects of not setting boundaries. Like I was saying earlier, worn out, burnt out, the yes woman would never say no, feel like, well, if I don't do it, they might feel some type of way. No disrespect, but so what if they do? Because you're feeling their desires and things that they need to get fulfilled, but you're left frustrated. And I got kind of tickled when I thought about boundaries. I was just reflecting everything. Even, yes, Blanche, learning that's so good, sis. I'm learning and still learning every day. I got tickled. Social media is a thing that it's a good tool, but I think sometimes we are sharing entirely too much. We're not even setting boundaries on social media. We're telling everybody what we're doing, what time to go to the bathroom, what time we got to brush our teeth, what time we got to be at work, what we eating today, what we going tomorrow. No, you need to learn to set boundaries. Social media is a great platform, but it's not to expose all your business and tell everybody everything what you're doing. I mean, you should want to take some kind of pride in being private and not just exposing everything about yourselves. And so when I think about that, all things that people post, they want people to know their every mood, or you want to just let people see what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's be clear. But there is a balance and a boundary to it, because if you're posting 85 posts a day and talking about what you're doing, this and that, I think you need to find something extra to do, something better to do with your time, because social media is just that. It's social media. A lot of stuff is a facade. It's not real. So let's be mindful how we conduct ourselves, even on social media, and what we're sharing and the things that we're doing. Because me myself, I'm very selective about what I share on social media. And I do that on purpose, because everything is not meant to be publicized. Everything is not for everybody. If you have some special ones that you want to share with outside of social media, do that. But please be mindful, because a lot of times we're posting these things, and I'm guilty of it. I think, why are they posting all that? I'm just being honest. And so you have to be careful. But even Now this is a hard one. I know it's going to seem harsh, but it's real. Even when we talk about setting boundaries, we have to set boundaries in all of our relationships. I'm talking about parental relationships, work relationships, romantic relationships, whatever it is. Now, I want to talk a little bit about parental relationships. Now, we know that are supposed to honor our mother and father, that our days will be long. And it's just something that we are called to do, to give that honor and respect to our parents. But I'm sorry, not sorry. I have seen parents, and I even have to make sure I check myself that I am not overstepping my boundary with my adult children. Trying to tell them what they need to do, how they need to do it. I'm telling you, life will give you the greatest lessons, and life will teach you more than anything. Even my son, some decisions he may have made, I'm not, fond of, but I continue to love him. I continue to support him. I continue to be there for him. And most importantly, I continue to pray for him. But I'm seeing, I just to say, be real, I've seen where some parents try to run their adult children's life. Now, if you got a child in your home, yes, and they're young, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to make sure you're guiding them. But it's a whole problem when you are 35 years old, you're out on your own, you're married, and your mom, your dad is trying to run your house, trying to tell you how to handle your husband, trying to tell you what to do with your children. That's overstepping boundaries. It's a way to do things. And I'm not saying don't take advice from your parents. I don't want this to get misconstrued. But what I'm saying, some of this is crossed over to manipulation and witchcraft, and God is not pleased with those things. So me as a parent, I had to remind myself, okay, God, I know that I went through some things. I know some choices I made and some things happened in my life that disappointed my parents. I will use an example. When I got pregnant, I was in college. I just started college, my second year in college. And that was the most disappointing news to my father. I mean, he was very hurt about that. And he did not engage me much at all during that time. And it disappointed him. Nevertheless, he knew and understood that I had to learn and grow through this process as I became a mother. I wasn't a teenage mother. I became a mother at the age of 20. And I learned and I grew through that. But now, even now, we talk about it and laugh about it. So we know, even though the boundaries were set, he had to learn and understand, okay, well, Dorothea has to learn and grow through these things. And even though it hurt him, my daughter's the greatest blessing to him today. So my whole point is saying, in that, don't try to control a thing with your children. Know when you are stepping out of bounds. Know when you are getting in God's way, when he's trying to do things in our children's life. Because again, we can always get involved in things that God has not even called us to. God is trying to teach them like he's taught us through some of the lessons and the growth and the pains and heartaches that we've gone through. So keep that in mind when we talk about having boundaries with our children and not even allowing our parents to overstep boundaries. Again, be respectful in a loving way, but some things are not a part of God's plan and he's not pleased with it. Okay, now we're going to move on to talking about romantic relationships. Now, I could just stay here for a minute, but I ain't going to do it. Listen, when we talk about setting boundaries for romantic relationships, I really didn't have any until I grew and understood my value and my worth. I didn't have any. I always wanted to feel like, well, we got to prove. We don't have to show and prove anything to anyone. Whether you're a man dating a woman or a woman dating a man or getting to know someone, you don't have to prove anything. You can set those. You have to set those proper boundaries. We as women, we tend to be too lackadaisical. Daisical, if that word is correct, lackadaisy. We don't set the proper boundaries. I know one thing, people laugh at me when I say this, and this is not a boastful statement because I know it was only God. About 3 years ago, when I had moved to Harvard, well, right in 4 years, I had got home and everything. And I said, I'm not going to have men in and out my house. I always tried to set the example and set boundaries for my daughter when she was young because I never wanted her to say, well, my mom had different men in and out, etc. So I made sure that I did that. And I would tell them, I would laugh, I would tell my girlfriends, we would talk about different things. She said, well, so and so want to come over. I said, well, sis, I don't think that's a good idea. And I said, my house don't receive company. And that was literally, I did not do that. I set those boundaries. Why? Because I did not want to get myself in those situations where I got caught up or they felt like they had access to do whatever and however when they got to my home. Even inviting um, men over to, eat dinner or things of that nature. This is just something I'm sharing and I'm led to share. It's okay to do that when you're getting to know one another. I mean, we're adults, you're going to do those type of things, but you still have to set boundaries. You shouldn't let nobody just come in your house and just take over and just do what they want to do, have no boundaries. Let them come and eat up all your food and drive your car around the place. No boundaries set at all. And I'm telling you, it's a whole problem, and I see it a lot, and it bothers me because I'm thinking, what are we looking for? What are we missing? Where is the void that we feel like we have to do all of these things to be accepted? And I'm not telling you something that I've heard. I'm telling you some of the things I've experienced. And so now that I have overcame and I know how to set boundaries, and when I learn to set boundaries, you will understand you're not going to attract the same type of people. You're going to be feeling rejected because those people that are not designed to be in your life, they will immediately leave. I mean, you don't even have to do anything, just be who you are, and they're going to dismiss themselves. You have standards and boundaries for yourself. Look, tell them. And I would tell the guys, I don't have company in my house. Well, why you grown? You don't have. No, I don't. I don't play that because I know me. My flesh is alive and well, and I'm not going to open the door for anything to take place that shouldn't happen. So in setting boundaries, we have to be realistic. We can't pretend like, oh, I can do this or I can do that. Even dating and getting to know people, um, I've really I've had some dating experiences that I could write a book about, and some of them tickle me because some guys I met, they just spilling it all. They just telling me everything. Sir, you just met me about an hour ago, and you're telling me all this stuff, and a lot of it's probably not even real. A lot of it's probably made up. It's telling me all this stuff, and so I think a lot of times it's a way for us to tell things. But again, I'm telling you, set boundaries. He don't need to know how much money you make. He don't need to know where you live. He don't even need to know what you drive in most instances, because there's so many things that are going on. So you have to be careful when you're dating, and you have to be intentional, and you have to set those boundaries. Don't worry about, like I used to do years ago. Well, if I don't do so and so, if I don't really act like I want to be bothered with him, or give it up, just be real, and they're not going to love me or appreciate me. No, set those boundaries and keep them. This is the day I feel like, even the fact that I'm engaged after waiting 12 years, because I set those boundaries and I kept them. Did it hurt during the process waiting? Yes, it did. Was it hard? Yes, it was, but it sure was worth it because I set those boundaries and I kept them. I didn't care if I had to go out by myself. I didn't care if I met someone that said, well, she ain't with it, just move on. Whatever I had to do to set those proper boundaries. And again, it was a process. I am not coming to you as perfect Patty. No, by no means. I've had my struggles, I've had my issues, but I have overcame a lot of them, and I want to help you and let you know that you can do it as well. You don't have to settle for anything. You don't have to feel like you got to just share all this information to be accepted. You do not have to do it. I'm a witness to tell you, just be who you are and carry yourself in a godly, loving way. And God will send you exactly what He know that you need and what's best for you. So going back into boundaries, talk a little bit more about it. We can find ourselves making people little gods if we are not addressing and setting the proper boundaries. For instance, as I said earlier, as I was getting into it, a lot of times I would say, well, I just don't want to hurt so and so feeling. But God is telling you to do something totally different. Well, if I don't do this, they're gonna be mad at me. They're not gonna like me, and they're not gonna be my friend, and all this childish stuff. I'm not trying to be funny or be, harsh. I'm so thankful that God is mature me in that area, that I really don't get caught up in a lot of that stuff anymore. And even the fact that it's okay when your boundaries are set, that you are attracting and God is sending those people that you need in your lives, those true friends that will understand the boundaries that you have, those friends that will understand. Look, sis, it's 11:30. I'm in the bed. I gotta go to work in the morning. Just setting those boundaries and keeping them. Not saying if you something goes down, you can call me. My phone is always open, and I tell those that really need me, need to reach out. Look, call me. I'm not saying don't call me in time of need, but if you just want to call to chat and ask what I'm doing this weekend, it's 11 o'clock and I got to go to work. No, don't. I mean, that's just setting boundaries. So you have to set those boundaries and keep them. Even people come to your home unexpected. I mean, I'm not going to just go over to Marcy's house if I'm in Alabama and just say, well, I'm going to go to Marcy. I ain't called Marcy nothing. I'm just going knocking on the door. Hey, Joanne, good to see you. I love you. Hey, Andrea. Love you all. Thank y'all so much for coming in. But no, I'm not gonna just go. I'm not gonna go over to Kendra house. Girl, I'm in town. I didn't want to call you and surprise you. No, hun, Trey may be having a nice romantic dinner, and they might not want to be bothered. So it's setting boundaries. A lot of people feel like, even family members, they feel like they can just come up to your home. They don't call. They just say, well, I can just go when I want to. My mom's home is open to me whenever I want to go. But I have never, since I've been here in this state of North Carolina, I've never just jumped in the car, went to my mom's house, didn't say anything, didn't show up. I mean, didn't call, just showed up, started bringing my stuff in, cooking and cleaning. I never did that because I respect the boundaries that she has. And we have to respect the boundaries and respect what people are doing and that they have their own lives. So stop going alone just to get along. That was me. That was your girl. That's what I did. But I thank God that He is showing me a better way, a healthier way. And that's why I'm here to share with you now. And we're always taking care of others and depleting ourselves, just wore out. I remember about 5 years ago, I had a house, y'all. I didn't even enjoy my house the way I should have because I was never setting boundaries. I was leaving, going to work, and I literally was gone from sun up to sundown. I would get in the bed as soon as my head hit the pillow, I would be asleep because I never set boundaries. I would have blood pressure issues. I wouldn't sleep. I would have stomach issues because I never set boundaries. So talking about boundaries, you think, well, it's really nothing if I don't. It's just let it go. It's hurting you in more ways than you think it is. And so setting those boundaries will make you better all the way around. It will make you even to a place where you will understand what's important. It will allow you to focus on those goals and dreams and visions and purpose that God has given you. Because when you set boundaries, you're going to have more time. You're going to be more free to do the things that you need to do instead of worrying about what everybody else doing. I'm the biggest pusher and I love helping people. But if I'm honest, I spent so much time helping people that I didn't do what God told me to do. So now I'm gonna be 50 playing catch up. Those things shouldn't be. Let me see what LaKendra said. Good morning, Tiffany. I love you so much. It's time for us to unlearn some of the things that we have learned. Yes. And yes, boundaries are necessary to protect our peace. They are definitely necessary for that. I was thinking the other day about some things that I knew I had to do, and it was a hard thing to even think about doing because, again, I never set any boundaries. I thought, well, how am I gonna, say no? I can't do this. I can't do that. Well, I just made my mind. I'm just gonna do it. I wrote it down. I sent the text message, and I was done. So don't neglect or delay what you know you need to do for your betterment. Some of us, our lives are changing in a tremendous way, in a great way. God is opening doors for us. He's given us opportunities that we never thought we have. If we don't take the proper steps to make sure that we're setting boundaries, we won't be successful. I'm a witness to tell you won't be. And there's no way you can juggle all those things and continue to do and set the goals and deadlines for yourself if you're trying to be everything for everybody. But yes, everybody wants to be accepted. And I know that that's hard. But I know a lot of that is just don't want to be rejected or don't want to feel abandoned. But and once you know and understand that you have to set those boundaries, it is not so much about pleasing others. It's about making sure we're doing what God has called us to do. Because I can say it over and over. I waste so much time. And sometimes, if I'm honest, it grieves me. And even the things that, thank you, Lakina, because I had wrote something down. Some of our family generational trauma can be canceled if we learn to put boundaries in place. Absolutely. And I was thinking about that too, because even growing up, my mom, she didn't really teach me boundaries. It wasn't that she was a bad parent. She just didn't know. And a lot of that she wasn't taught. So it goes back to generations. So we have to understand that the root of things, there is a root to everything that we experience, all that we go through. And one thing that I learned and that I had to overcome was that I lost myself when I didn't set boundaries. I didn't know who I was. I found myself trying to be everything that everybody wanted me to be. And I made people's problems my own. And I had to learn, even when I started The Woman Within about back in 2015, I was mentoring young ladies, and I would just literally be up all night, worried sick about them. They would share things, and I was not setting the proper boundaries where I had to release that to God. I would just care for myself. I would carry it. I would worry. I would stress. Are y'all okay? That's not what God called me to do. That's not. He didn't call us to do worse, for us to be worried or not to set the proper boundaries. Tiffany is a phenomenal life coach, and she does things. I'm sure that when she tells people what they need to know, and she does her coaching sessions, she tells them and she releases them and let them go. I don't imagine her being up all night worrying, but that's what I did. And I had to go back to the drawing board, and I had to understand that I was losing my identity because I didn't know how to set boundaries. I didn't know how to do it. I had to really allow God to help me to transform the way that I was doing things. So we can get so involved and get so consumed that we don't set the proper boundaries. And again, we lose ourselves. We don't know who we are. And yeah, it can happen. And even setting boundaries, I'm just going to say it like it is. Stop talking so much. I'm just going to let that sit there for just a minute while I drink my water. Stop talking so much and feeling like you got to tell everybody everything. I'm going to say this real slow. No, you don't. I'm just going to sit there for a minute. No, you do not. Stop talking so much, trying to feel and want to be accepted, not setting boundaries, telling everybody everything. Stop talking so much. Please be quiet and consult God, because you're the conversation that people are talking about on the phone because you're talking too much. You're telling acquaintances and people that you don't have a relationship, you're telling them everything. Be quiet and stop talking so much. And I hate to say it with that tone, but you just got to be quiet. Sit down and shut up in a nice way. Sorry. Be quiet. We talk so much. If someone is going through something, someone sent me something again. This is, I humbly say this. She said, this is somebody I don't talk to all the time. She said, God led me to you. I feel like you're a safe space, and I can tell you that. Do you know how that makes me feel? Not proud of myself, but it's a good feeling to know that people can pick up that you're a safe space. I know for myself, and I've shared some things with several people on here. I hadn't heard anything about it. Be a safe space. Make sure that even in the boundaries that you're setting, that you are a safe space, and that the people that you're dealing with are safe spaces as well. So know where boundaries to set, know who you can tell things. Just don't go in just telling everything. And that blessed me, not because I'm just so good, but I take value. I take pride in that. When people tell you something, they're telling you because they trust you and they are asking you for help. So do the right thing and do what you need to do. Keep it in confidentiality. But again, stop talking so much when people are telling you things, and you going out telling other people, girl, don't say nothing but so and so and so and so. God is not in that. He's not pleased with that at all. So learn to sit down and be quiet. Use discernment. Know when and how and what you need to be sharing with others, because everybody does not have your best interests at heart. I have 3,900 friends on Facebook, and probably 300 deal with me, and for real. And so my whole point is saying that you have to set boundaries. So why am I gonna go in there and just tell everything what happened, girl, this, and just having a whole conniption come apart on Facebook? Why do we do that? Set boundaries and stop sending these messages, subliminal messages on Facebook as well. If you want to tell somebody something, go to them. Learn how to set boundaries. And another thing, I'm gonna wrap it up with this. Um, One thing I had to learn, I had to stop allowing blatant disrespect. That's when I knew I had to set boundaries. Even in workplaces, I'm going to touch on that just a little bit because it's something I experienced in the past. Because I'm just a friendly person and very inviting. That's just the nature God has given me, and I'll talk to anybody. And guys and people will find themselves, they will come up and give me a hug or, something like that, which is okay to an extent, but when boundaries are being crossed or when it's not appropriate. So I had to learn to set those boundaries, and it made me feel bad even now when I'm having to say, don't do that. But that's just respecting yourself. Stop worrying about how someone's going to respond when you set boundaries. That's not the purpose of. We're not saying set boundaries. Well, if I set boundaries, I'm gonna lose so and so. Well, if you set boundaries and you lose them, trust and believe they weren't supposed to be there anyway. And that's what I had to learn as I was going through my process of dating. And I would just be straight up and tell the guys, this is that, we get to know one another. And I would set my boundaries. When they left, I didn't cry. I praised God because I knew they weren't supposed to be there anyway. So when you're setting boundaries and people are leaving, good. They need to be gone. Be gone and never return. Thank you very much. But don't allow any type of disrespect, and again, respect other people's boundaries. Not only do you need to set boundaries, but you need to respect others' boundaries. Again, I mean, I can have live at my mom's house and do whatever I want to do, but I'm just not gonna go over there and just take over because I know there are boundaries. She has a whole amazing husband at her house. I'm not gonna just jump up there and do what I want to do. Yes, she will let me, but because I respect the boundaries and I respect my parents' home, there's a way to do everything. And I want to talk on something real brief as we wrap up. I feel like I need to talk about this a little bit more. So much that I could talk about. But I wrote down some notes when I thought about the benefits of setting boundaries. And my sis Tiffany Lamille said something already. It protects your peace. I have never been in such a peaceful state in my life where I don't feel like I'm running around with a chicken, like a chicken with his head cut off, not the energizer button, just at peace. Things are just I can do what I need to do and focus on what I need to do, and I can delegate my time and focus on what's important. And so that goes back to what I wrote down. It protects our well-being. When we set boundaries, it protects us across the board, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, all of that. Because if you're not setting boundaries when it comes to your finances, if someone could call and ask you for anything, you have it, but you have some goals you want to reach, but because you feel like, well, I can't tell my sister no, I can't tell my cousin no, I have to tell them yes. You still have to set those boundaries. And boundaries set the standard of how we want to be treated. So with that being said, how do you truly want to be treated? Even for my sisters and my brothers, when you are searching for the one that God, has for you, and you're believing God for a mate, how do you want to be treated? I mean, so with that, you have to set the standard, and to set the standard and don't come off of it. And I'll be honest, I got weary, and I mean, during that process, the journey, 12 years, I got kind of weary, and I thought the enemy tried me. He's like, well, maybe your standards are just a little bit too high. But then I had my pastor. He came to me. He said, daughter, whatever you do, do not lower your standards. And that's what I'm telling you. When it comes to boundaries, don't change. When you draw the line, don't lower your boundaries. Don't say, well, I'll just let this boundary go because I want to make sure that I keep the peace with so and so. But you're not at peace. So what is that going to do? That's not helping anything. And overstepping boundaries, it causes us basically is causes our mental well-being to just be destroyed. Because again, I can remember like yesterday when I was doing everything. I didn't know if I was coming or going. I was an event planner. I was very active in the church. I was working. I was doing other things. It was so much. I was so consumed. And it was ridiculous. And I didn't know how to set boundaries. I always felt like I had to say yes Because if I didn't, what's going to happen, and what's the consequence of me saying no? And so I want to wrap up, and I want to encourage you. I'm going to post a couple more things about boundaries. There's so much that I have written out, and I'm really trying to be respectful of the time. But when it comes to boundaries, you have to set them and keep them. No longer are we saying, why are they doing this to me? I don't know why they do this to me. I can tell you why they do it, because we allow them to. We allow them to do it. But you need to make up in your mind at this moment, this second, no more. I'm not going to allow people to run over me. I'm not going to allow people to take advantage of my time. I'm not going to allow people to keep me from my purpose and destiny. I'm going to set boundaries, and I'm going to keep them starting today. And you may have to practice in the mirror. It may sound kind of elementary, but seriously, I hated telling people no. And it was almost to a point where, like a robot, I would automatically say yes, even before even thinking the whole process through. So, whatever you need to do to set those boundaries and keep them, I admonish you to do that. It's going to make your life so much better. And you're going to be at peace. You're going to be able to enjoy the things that God has called you to do. Because, again, when you don't set boundaries, you are wasting so much time. A lot of times we're not even asking God, did you tell me to do that? We're doing it because so and so asked us for. We can't let them down, but we're letting God down. We can't do that anymore. So again, ask God to show you and to help you how to set boundaries and where you need to set those boundaries at, in what areas and with what people. And again, if they leave, if they get an attitude, those people are the main reason you need to set boundaries, because they are wearing us out. And so I made up in my mind I wasn't going to do it anymore, and I'm in a place of freedom and liberty and joy that I cannot explain. Yes, Tiffany, don't hurt yourself trying to help someone else. Yes, indeed. I'm telling you, your sis was broke down to the ground. I was so sick. My blood pressure, it was ridiculous. And it's something about overcoming a thing. We can talk about it when we overcame it. And I thank God His word tells us that, and we're overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And I love sharing it, because I know that I'm not by myself. And I know that even in setting more boundaries, I still have to do that. And you still can be a kind person and set boundaries. Seriously, don't feel like you're being mean or harsh. You're actually doing yourself and them a favor when you set boundaries. So, yes, setting boundaries are good for everyone that's involved. And so I want to, again, thank y'all so much for joining. But I do want to encourage you, set boundaries and keep them. It's going to make your life so much sweeter. You're going to have more peace than you ever known. And I just want to just let you know that I'm praying for you, and that God can and He will give you the ability, the strength, and the wherewithal to set boundaries and keep them. I definitely look forward to sharing with you all next. Well, it'll be next. I do every 2 weeks now, because I've got a lot going on. Even with that, I'm setting boundaries, knowing and understand that things shift and they change. Because I was like, I got to keep doing it every week, but I was not setting the proper boundaries and everything else. And all other things getting out of sort. So even in your personal lives, things that goals that you have to meet, it's okay to make the proper adjustments and draw the line and set those boundaries, so you can be successful and you can be fulfilled and do all of the things that God has called you to do. But I love y'all so much. I pray you have an amazing day. And again, set those boundaries and keep them. Take care until next time. Mwah.